I'm here with a dynamic pediatrician by the name of Tamika Day. And I just want you to tell a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, yes, thank you for that introduction. But I am a pediatrician. I've been practicing pediatric medicine for more than 2 decades. And I actually became a nutritional health coach as well. And a little bit about how I got there. I was practicing pediatric medicine, was a fairly young wife and mom with young kids, and trying to balance like working in the clinics and the hospitals, taking the kids to daycare, picking them up, trying to get meals and things on the table, for our whole family. Right. And I experienced what a lot of working career moms experience, which is difficult managing that work-home balance. Yes. And it affected my health. So my health started to decline. And being a physician and studying and learning about like all chronic illnesses and things like that, I wanted to do something. I knew I had to do something to get my health back. Yeah. And being a woman of prayer and faith, I was like, okay, God, what do I need to do to get back on the right track? Okay. And that's when I discovered, or he led me to nutritional health coaching. Okay. And so then in that program, that's when I learned about the foods and whole foods, whole grains, eating a certain way, making sure we get our rest and hydrate with water, things we know and learn growing up, but we get away from when we get so busy with life. But applying those things, my health improved by the grace of God. And I was like, I got to help other people who are searching for more, right? Who want to get to that root cause of the problem. So I started my business, which is Flourish Health Coaching LLC, to help other busy women and families to get healthier by changing what they eat, changing their lifestyle and making sure that God is a part of their, life in order to get this wellness. Right. So, and in doing so, I've learned through the years, there are many ways we can get the word out, not just through coaching one-on-one, but, multiple ways, social media and through, mass print production and books. So I have written a book. It's 21 Days to a Prosperous Mindset. Okay. And I'm excited because I just started a podcast, which is the Wholeness Walk, which really is meant to help women and families to focus on walking in in wellness. Yes. And so that's a little bit about myself. Yeah.
Well, you're pretty much a superwoman.
Well, no, not really.
No, you are, because you know what? We all, especially as moms, that's like our number one job right there. And just trying to be a mom and work and, your wife and, we still want our careers and our passions and things like that. And so I'm so glad that you started your podcast. It's a wonderful podcast. I've listened to it. And, I just love that you put faith in everything that you do. So that I love that about you.
Let me tell you, that is the one thing that has throughout my life, when things were falling apart, unraveling, that is the one thing that carried me through, that brought me. So I cannot leave out faith.
Yes. I agree. Okay, Dr. Tamika, let's talk about the kids, because I know that you're a pediatrician. And so I know that a lot of kids, they develop diabetes and things like that. Tell me some early signs that you may want parents to know.
That's a really good question. Okay, so a couple of things when we think about like type 1 diabetes. If your child is really tired and they're going to bed at their regular bedtime, and they're in bed for at least 8-9 hours, but they still are so tired, that's something to make sure you bring up with your pediatrician or healthcare provider. Like, it just seems like my child is so tired all the time. Another thing, if they're thirsty all the time, regardless of how much they're drinking, right? They're still thirsty. And if they're peeing a lot, that's a big one. That is not normal. So if any of those things are coming up, you definitely want to point it out. Now, in the office, we can do some quick things. We can do, dip their urine. If there's any glucose in it, that could be a sign. We can look at their weight, right? And we can say, okay, in the last 6 months, you have lost weight.
Right.
And a lot of times with young kids with type 1 diabetes, it's unintentional weight loss. So it's not like with adults with excess weight and things like that.
Yeah.
So that's another sign. And then from there, we can order blood work.
Okay.
In order to be able to see what their fasting glucose is, what their hemoglobin A1C is. Now, one thing that I have started to see with a lot of kids is the opposite of type 1 diabetes signs. I'm starting to see the similar signs that you see with type 2 diabetes in adults.
Okay.
Because a lot of overweight kids.
Yeah.
So, the overweight, number one, darkening around their neck and in their axilla. That's another sign of darkening around their neck. Acanthosis nigricans, that's a big one. So usually what I will say to the parents is I want to check some labs.
Yeah.
I want to check, their hemoglobin A1C to see what's going on, which gives us like a range of their blood sugars for the last 3 months.
Okay.
And I also check like their liver function test, because you can get fatty liver as well in kids. And I've started seeing a lot of these things with kids because of the overweight, the obesity that we see a lot more now in the pediatric population.
Okay.
And partly it's because of lifestyle, right?
Right.
So they're not getting up, they're not moving around a lot. What they're eating, more processed foods, packaged foods, fast foods, right? And so instead of it being a problem at 30 years of age, 10, 9, 8, 7, we're having these same problems.
Yeah. And I like that you say that, when you see certain things, you want to do lab testing and things like that, because that makes me know that you care, first of all, because a lot of doctors, and I've seen it because, like I said, I go to the doctor all the time. That's like my lifestyle right now. A lot of doctors, they don't go above and beyond. And so I love to see doctors go above and beyond to help their patients, because I feel like, they really care. And that makes the patient feel good as well. And, with kids, it's like they eat food, definitely a lot of processed foods.
Right.
And I think a lot of times what it is some people, like parents, they think the foods that, their kids should eat is like, go fix some oodles and noodles real quick. It's quick. It's cheap, and so, I understand in a sense why they should say, like, go fix you something real quick, because we are working mothers and things like that, but they don't understand that the foods that they're fixing is not healthy food. But then it comes from a line of just not knowing, because the mother or the father probably don't know how to eat healthy. So it's like I call it a generational curse, So I feel like healthier food should be more, affordable. It's crazy. So, yeah, but I'm glad that you are really, really, passionate about your patients. I love that. So.
Yeah, and exactly what you said, because when I first started with the health coaching, it was mostly for the working moms, right?
Yeah.
Because that was my perspective. That's what I experienced. But then as I started, got into it, I'm like, wait, this is like the whole family.
Yeah.
And usually if you can help mom, right?
Yeah.
With what to prepare, what to bring in the house, that affects like the kids,
right,
the spouses, the extended family. And even if they don't like it, they will see mom keeps making it healthy, keeps doing it. And eventually they're like, let me try that.
Let me
smoothie,
try
mom.
And if they hungry, they're gonna eat it eventually.
There you go. And if you don't have the cookies and the potato chips and all of that stuff in your house, but you got the apples and the oranges and the bananas and things like that, you're right. They will go to it and eat it.
Yeah. And I hate that they make the unhealthy food taste better. It's like, I don't know, like, when you want something healthy, it's like go eat an apple. They're like, no, can I get a piece of chocolate? You know, we just have to train them different. So you know, and you like you said, it starts from the mother, the father, and then they'll have no other choice but to eat healthy. So
and like what you just said, the training part, you'll end up training your palate.
Yeah.
So when you're used to eating a lot of sugary, sweet foods, your palate is used to that.
Right.
So if you eat like a banana, it's like, okay, that's it. You know, but once you start weaning off of that and eating more whole foods and healthy, if you go back to trying to eat all that sugar, you're like, oh my gosh, this is terrible.
Right.
You know, so it is a process though. Yeah, it definitely is.
We're going to get that word out there.
Yes,
the podcast. Yes. Okay, you all, I had to stop and change my insulin pump because, of course, you know, diabetes never stopped. So this is my insulin pump right here. I put insulin in it. This is the insulin that I said. $800 when I didn't have any insurance. Whew. So what I do is I have to take this insulin and I have to put it in this vial with this syringe and then put it in here. Okay, and then I have to program it into this right. Oh, you know what? First of all, let me take the other pump off because this happened on while I'm recording. Of course, I'm not really thinking. I have to take this one off first, and I try to move it in different spots because it's supposed to be in the fattest part of your body, which normally is the abdomen. Or some people put it in their thigh. I can't do it because I'm afraid that when I put my pants on, that it's going to make it come off. And so now I usually have it in my arm or my stomach, so I try to maneuver it, you know, every so often. So this one right here, I gotta make sure that it's not connected anymore.
Wait, so you gotta take two?
No. This is the one I just took off. So this is the old one. It only lasts for 3 days. So this is the one I just took off, and this is the one that I'm about to put on. So what I do is I have to use my alcohol pad and make sure it's sterile.
So you can keep that on when you shower?
It's actually a like a cover that goes with it too, but I don't normally use the cover because it stays on. And so the insulin is in here now, and then I have to program it to let it know that it's in. So I'm setting it up.
So once you just use like an app to like log it?
Yeah, well my phone actually lets me know, because I have this right here too, which is a sensor. My phone is connected to this, and so my phone lets me know what my blood sugars are all day. This right here just gives me insulin all day. So and it connects with each other. But yeah, this is, instead of me taking 10 needles, I used to take 10 needles a day.
So how often does it give you insulin? Like, is
All
it
day.
reading your sugar and then
Yeah.
releasing the insulin? Or is it like every 2 hours?
No, it's releasing insulin all day, little drips of insulin all day. And then
Okay.
when I'm about to eat,
Okay.
You program
course.
the amount that's dripping continuously, right?
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so now it's priming, and you're going to hear a pop.
And that's the
That's when
needle
it
going
pops.
into your skin.
Yeah.
So that taking noise, what is it, like dropping stuff in there?
It's priming. It's connecting to this. Like I said, it normally does not take this long, but because we're filming, of course, you know. Okay, that was it. So that noise that you heard, it just popped the needle in me. So what it does is, okay, now. Okay, now it's saying connecting to transmitter. So now this has to connect to this. And so it kind of works together.
Okay.
And which is, I'm gonna tell you, it's a blessing. It's a blessing because like I tell people, I used to have seizures in my sleep because I didn't know what my blood sugars were. So having something to let me know okay, your blood sugar is 90. The blood sugar is dropping right now. You know, it's like it's a blessing.
Can you feel it though? When your blood sugar is dropping?
Oh yeah, yeah. I can know what my blood sugars are without even looking.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the thing. It's like when you go through it so much, you automatically know.
Yeah.
What about like, so when you sleep and stuff like that, did you stay in you too?
It's in me all day, 365 days out of the year. This is something that I'm going through. But like I said, I change it every 3 days because I have to, renew it. Put more insulin in the next one. But yeah, I never get a break, never. So all day long, I'm balancing blood sugars. Too much sugar, too little sugar, like it's just, I don't know.
So it's literally doing what your pancreas.
Yeah, that's what they call it, artificial pancreas. So
And you said that little bottle cost how much?
the little bottle it does not cost that now. When I because I have insurance now,
Okay.
thank God. But when I lost my job and I didn't have insurance anymore,
That little bottle.
back then that little bottle was $800. Okay, Dr. Tamika, why catching it early for the kids is so important?
That's a really good question. It is definitely important because, if the child has diabetes, right, the longer that they go with these elevated sugars, it can damage their organs just like adults, right?
Yes.
And so what could be something that you could, in the case of kids that are overweight, obese, and they have type 2 diabetes, right? You maybe could prevent a lot of the insulin and things like that. But if you let it go on for so long, their kidneys can be damaged too, right? And
that's a fact.
And they can decrease their life expectancy, just because now at the age of 20, they have chronic kidney disease.
Yeah.
So same thing, the longer that our body is experiencing, these abnormalities with high blood sugars and things like that, it is damaging our organs, whether it's eyes, kidneys, extremities, right? And the same thing applies with kids too. But also when you talk about like generations, it is important because our kids are our futures.
Yes.
If our kids are all, chronically ill and sick, then what does our future look like, right? So definitely.
Yeah, that's a good answer. That's a
Yeah.
good answer. Okay, what's some of the things that the parents can do to make sure that the child is healthy?
Right. So when we think about food, right? So what mom and dad, the caregivers are eating, it needs to be healthy. And so one of the things is to try to have more whole foods in the house. So like the whole apple, the whole banana, blueberries, strawberries, those things as the snack because, it's fruit and it is sweet, but it's natural, which also has like important nutrients and vitamins in it.
Yeah.
So take out all that stuff out of the pantry, whether it's the cookies, the honey buns, the potato chips, all those things. We got to take it out of the house. And another thing is cereal.
Yes.
Cereals. I have tried to find cereals on the shelf that do not have a lot of sugar in it. And it's
hard.
Really hard. And the ones that don't taste terrible.
Right.
So most kids would not eat it, right?
Yeah.
But that is one of the places where kids are getting a lot of this hidden sugar into their diet. So we definitely got to, be mindful about the cereals and the different crackers and breads and things that we think is healthy, but it actually has a lot of sugar in it since we're trying to prevent diabetes, right? And so we know by watching the amount of sugar that's in the diet that can help prevent it. So that's something practical, like go through your house, look at your pantry and just start taking out things that have a lot of sugar in it.
Okay, and I'm glad that you mentioned the hidden sugars because even me now, I'm actually just learning about hidden sugars, believe it or not, because when I was first diagnosed, I had one nutrition class.
Wow.
One. And for a person who don't know anything about nutrition, and you have one nutrition class, and they're like, okay, don't eat this, this is what this, and I learned about the simple carbs and, things like that because certain carbohydrates for a person who's diabetic, and if your blood sugar is dropping, you need the quick, fast carbohydrates that's going to kick in, like juice and, maybe candy or, something like that. And so they taught me this much about a lifestyle that I have to live for the rest of my life. So, I'm glad that you said the hidden sugars, because now I'm looking at labels and I'm like, why was my blood sugar so high? Even though we have to count carbs and put it out in my insulin pump in order for my insulin pump to know how much insulin to give me.
Right.
But I would put that in, but it would still be off. But I did not know that that extra sugar was still causing it to be higher than, what it's supposed to be. And so it's just, just knowing, and I think, to be honest with you, I think they should teach that to kids in school.
Oh, yeah. I agree.
Because it's hitting sugars that we don't know about, and we're thinking, even the foods that say fat-free or sugar-free or whatever, all that stuff is bad for us.
Yes.
But we think, it's sugar-free. Oh, I get that, So I'm glad that you talked about that as well.
Yeah, and like when I do like workshops and events like that, I always try to remind parents when they go to the grocery store to shop on the perimeter of the grocery store.
Yeah.
Like where the produce section is, right? Where the frozen food section is, and a little bit in the middle, because actually that's where all the hidden sugars are, right?
Yeah.
In the boxes, in the packages, in the cans. So if you can get fresh or frozen, you're gonna automatically decrease the amount of that hidden sugar, in the food. So, all right, Char. So, you and I have talked, and you have an amazing story. What is it that you want people to walk away with? Like, what do you want them to know?
Well, I want them to know that, first of all, they're not alone. And that they're just like me. There are people who, battle chronic illness, but still want to push through, still want to do, the things that they like to do, but they just have, limitations and things like that. I just want them to know that they are still inspiring and empowering, and, they can still be themselves, and they just have something that they have to work on as far as like health-wise. That's pretty much it.
So Chronically Healed is very powerful. So when someone finds you, so many social media platforms and different ways, what do you want them to feel?
I want them to feel an immediate connection. I want them to feel empowered, inspired, and I just want them to feel like, it's a community that we're building. And the community is not just for diabetes, what I deal with, the thyroid disease. It's for any community, anyone who's dealing with a disease that they say currently has no cure, because that right there is something it's something that takes your breath away when they tell you that. So, but just being in the community with other people, other like-minded people, and just knowing that you're not alone, that's what I want them to feel when they stumble across Chronically Healed.
All right, so you're not just telling your story, but you want to talk about misinformation in the medical field, right?
Right.
Okay. So why is that so important to you?
It's so important to me because I was never taught anything when I was diagnosed. I didn't have any support. I felt alone. I felt like it was something that people need. I felt like people need support. People need community. And, like I said, me being diagnosed years ago, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know who to turn to. I just felt isolated. So, that was one of the biggest reasons why I wanted to start this.